I sat in the empty living room of our family cottage, surrounded by the silence that comes after something has been taken from you. Through the bay window, Lake Muskoka stretched out like hammered silver under the October sky. The same view I'd known for 43 years. The same view my father had known before me. But the keys in my hand were different. New keys. Keys my son didn't have. The locksmith had left 20 minutes ago. A professional woman from Bracebridge named Carol, mid-50s, who'd asked no questions when I explained I needed every lock changed on a Thursday afternoon. She'd glanced at my face just once, and seemed to understand that sometimes silence is the kindest thing you can offer a man who's just learned what betrayal tastes like. My phone sat on the pine coffee table, the screen dark now, but earlier it had lit up with the kind of notification that changes everything. A text from my bank. Large withdrawal flagged for review. I hadn't made any withdrawal. I was standing in my Toronto apartment at the time, packing for what I'd thought would be a quiet weekend up here, maybe some fishing, maybe just watching the leaves turn. Instead, I'd driven the 2 hours north with my heart beating against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The cottage door was unlocked when I arrived. That should have been my first sign. Mitchell had a key, of course. He was my son, my only child. For 41 years, I'd trusted him with everything. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. Let me tell you how I got here. Sitting in a room that suddenly feels foreign, holding new keys to a place that's supposed to be home. My name is Vernon. I'm 67 years old, retired for 3 years now after teaching high school English for 38 years. Shakespeare, mostly, some Atwood, a lot of Findlay. I'd stand in front of teenagers every day and talk about betrayal and redemption like they were abstract concepts, themes to be analyzed and discussed. I never imagined I'd be living through one of those tragic plots myself, except this wasn't literature. This was my life. Mitchell was born here, in this cottage. Well, not literally. He was born at Huntsville District Memorial Hospital, but we brought him here 3 days later, in July 1984. My wife, Rebecca, had wrapped him in a blue blanket my mother had knitted. I remember carrying him across this threshold, Rebecca beside me, both of us exhausted and terrified, and completely in love with this tiny person who depended on us for everything. We had no idea what we were doing, but we tried. God, we tried. Rebecca died 6 years ago, pancreatic cancer. It took her in 4 months, so fast we barely had time to say everything that needed saying. Mitchell was there, at the hospital. He held her hand. He cried. He promised me he'd help me through it, that we'd get through it together. And for a while, he did. For a while, my son was the man I'd raised him to be. Then, he met Paige. I want to be fair here. I want to believe that Mitchell made his own choices, that he's a grown man responsible for his own actions. But Paige changed something in him. They met 2 years after Rebecca died. She was younger, 33 to his 39 at the time. She worked in marketing, talked fast, dressed in clothes that cost more than my monthly pension. At first, I thought it was good for him. He seemed happier, more energetic, but there were signs, small things. The way she'd look around the cottage and say things like, "You know what this place could be worth if you updated it?" Or, "Vernon, have you thought about what you want to do with all this space?" "It's a lot for one person," always said with a smile, like she was being helpful, like she cared. Mitchell started asking about my finances. "Just want to make sure you're set up properly, Dad. You know, for the future." He suggested I get a power of attorney arranged, just in case something happens. You're getting older. It's responsible planning. I should have seen it then, but he was my son. You don't expect your child to be circling you like a vulture, waiting. The cottage had been in my family since 1962. My father, Arthur, bought it for $8,000. He was a mechanic, worked at a GM dealership in Oshawa, saved every penny. This cottage was his dream, his piece of peace after a week covered in engine grease. He taught me to fish off that dock out there, taught me to split wood, to patch a roof, to appreciate the sound of loons at dawn. When he died in 1995, he left it to me, and I always assumed, stupidly, naively, that I'd leave it to Mitchell. 3 months ago, Mitchell came to visit me in Toronto. Just him, without Paige. We had lunch at a pub near my apartment. He seemed nervous, kept checking his phone. Finally, he pulled out some papers. "Dad, I've been thinking. You should have these documents ready. You know, legal stuff, power of attorney, healthcare directive. I talked to a lawyer, and she drew these up for you. It's all standard." The papers looked official. The lawyer's name was at the top. Mitchell explained each page, pointing at the lines where I needed to sign. "This one gives me the authority to handle your finances if you're incapacitated. This one lets me make healthcare decisions if you can't. It's just a safety net, Dad. We don't expect to use them." I signed. I signed because he was my son, because I trusted him, because the alternative, doubting your own child, was too painful to consider. That was 12 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from Dorothy, my neighbor at the cottage. She's 73, lives 3 cottages down year-round. We look out for each other. "Vernon," she said, her voice uncertain, "I saw a real estate agent here yesterday, taking photos of your place." I asked her what was going on, and she said the property was being listed. "I thought you should know." I told her there must be some mistake. I wasn't selling. I'd never sell. But something cold had started to form in my chest. I called Mitchell. He didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. "We need to talk about the cottage. Call me." He called back 6 hours later. "Dad, hey, sorry. Been busy. What's up?" "Dorothy says there was a real estate agent at the cottage." A pause. Too long. "Oh, yeah. I was going to talk to you about that. Paige and I have been looking at the numbers. And Dad, honestly, the cottage is just sitting there. You barely use it anymore. The property taxes alone are crushing you. We thought it might be good to sell, invest the money properly, make sure you're comfortable. I never agreed to sell. Dad, you gave me power of attorney. That means I can make these decisions if I think they're in your best interest. I'm not incapacitated, Mitchell. I'm fully capable of making my own decisions." Another pause. "We can talk about this later. I've got to go." He hung up. I sat in my apartment, staring at the wall, trying to process what had just happened. My son had just told me he was selling my family cottage without my permission, using a document I'd signed in good faith. That's when I called my own lawyer, Sharon Weinberg. She'd handled Rebecca's will, helped me with some estate planning. I told her everything. She listened, and when I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Vernon, I need you to listen carefully. What Mitchell is doing is likely illegal. A power of attorney doesn't give him the right to act against your wishes while you're still mentally competent. It's meant for situations where you can't make decisions for yourself. If he's using it to sell your property without your consent, that's financial abuse. We can fight this." "What do I do?" "First, we revoke the power of attorney immediately. I'll draw up the paperwork. Second, we notify the real estate agent and the land registry that the property is not for sale, and any sale would be fraudulent. Third, and I need you to be prepared for this, Vernon, you might want to consider involving the police. This could be criminal." I felt sick. Police? My own son? "Let's start with revoking the POA," I said. Sharon had the revocation drawn up within 2 days. She filed it, sent copies to Mitchell by registered mail, notified the real estate agent. The listing was pulled. Mitchell called me that evening. He was furious. "Dad, what the hell? Sharon Weinberg? You got a lawyer involved? We're family. We could have worked this out. You were selling my cottage without my permission. I was trying to help you. Do you have any idea what Paige and I have put into planning your future? The hours we've spent, and this is the thanks we get?" Something in his voice. Entitlement. Like I owed him. Like the cottage was already his, and I was just being difficult by wanting to keep it. "Mitchell, I'm going to say this once. The cottage is not for sale. My finances are my own. You have no authority over them anymore. Fine. You want to be stubborn? Be stubborn. But don't come crying to me when you need help." He hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I thought revoking the POA would solve everything. I was wrong. That's when the bank alert came. The notification that brought me here, to this cottage, to these new locks. I'd driven up this morning, Thursday, after seeing the alert. Large withdrawal, $15,000, taken yesterday from my savings account. The account that was supposed to require my signature for withdrawals over $500. I called the bank from the car. The manager, a man named Deepak, I'd worked with for years, pulled up the transaction. Mr. Vernon, I'm looking at this now. The withdrawal was made by Mitchell Vernon, using a power of attorney document on file. I revoked that power of attorney last week. My lawyer should have sent you the paperwork. Let me check. I could hear him typing. I don't see anything in the system. When was it sent? 5 days ago. It's possible it's in processing. But Mr. Vernon, I'm very sorry. The withdrawal went through yesterday. The document on file appeared valid at the time. $15,000. Gone. Can you freeze my accounts? All of them. Right now. Yes, sir. I'm doing that now. I'm also flagging Mitchell's access. He won't be able to make any further transactions. Thank you, Deepak. I need to call my lawyer. I called Sharon from the car. She was livid. They should have received the revocation. I sent it by courier. I'm calling them right now, Vernon. And we're filing a police report. This is fraud. This is theft. I'm at the cottage right now. I need to check something. Be careful. If Mitchell is there, he's not. His car's not here. But when I walked inside, I knew he had been. The cottage felt violated. Papers were spread across the kitchen table. My father's old roll-top desk in the corner was open, files pulled out. I recognized some of them. Insurance papers. The property deed. Rebecca's death certificate. And there, on top of the pile, a brochure. Luxury condos in downtown Toronto. Starting at $1.2 million. Someone had circled one of the units in pen. Written in the margin, with cottage sale plus inheritance, we can swing it. Inheritance. I was still alive, and they were already spending my inheritance. I stood there, in the cottage where my son was born, where my wife and I had celebrated 40 anniversaries, where my father had taught me what family meant, and I understood with perfect, terrible clarity that Mitchell wasn't waiting for me to die. He was trying to take everything while I was still here to watch. That's when I called Carol, the locksmith. While I waited for her to arrive, I went through the papers on the table. There were more documents I'd apparently signed. A loan application for $50,000, using the cottage as collateral. A second mortgage. I didn't remember signing any of these. But there was my signature, or something very close to it, at the bottom of each page. My hands were shaking when Sharon called back. Vernon, the bank confirmed they received the revocation, but due to an internal error, it wasn't processed in time. They're investigating. They've also confirmed that the $15,000 was transferred to an account in Mitchell and Page's names. There's more, Sharon. I'm looking at documents here. Loan applications I never signed. A second mortgage. Take photos of everything. Don't touch anything else. I'm serious, Vernon. This is beyond financial abuse now. This is fraud, forgery, identity theft. I'm contacting the police. You need to file a report today. Carol arrived at 3 o'clock. She was efficient, professional, kind. She changed the locks on both doors, the deadbolts, everything. She gave me the new keys, 2 sets. Kept one for herself in case I ever locked myself out. I'll log it under Cottage Emergency Service, she said. No one else will have access to this information. After she left, I sat in the silence. My phone rang. Mitchell. I didn't answer. He called again. Again. A text. Dad, I'm coming up there. We need to talk. Another text. From Paige. Vernon, you're being unreasonable. Mitchell is trying to help you. Why are you shutting us out? I turned my phone off. The next morning, Friday, I drove to the OPP detachment in Bracebridge. A young officer, Constable Richards, took my statement. I showed him the photos of the documents, explained about the power of attorney, the withdrawal, the forged signatures. He listened, took notes, asked careful questions. Mr. Vernon, I'm not going to lie to you. Cases like this, family financial abuse, they're complicated. But based on what you're showing me, there's definitely cause for investigation. We'll need to get forensic analysis of these signatures. We'll also be contacting your bank, your lawyer, and we'll want to speak with Mitchell and his wife. What happens now? We open a file. We investigate. If there's evidence of fraud, we'll pursue charges. But I want you to understand, this could take time. Months, potentially. I understand. He gave me a file number. Shook my hand. I'm sorry you're going through this, sir. No one should have to worry about family doing this to them. I drove back to the cottage. Mitchell's truck was parked in the driveway. My heart sank. He was standing on the porch, trying the door. He saw me pull in, and the look on his face was a mix of frustration and something else. Something that looked almost like fear. Dad, finally. I've been calling you. I got out of the car slowly. I know. What's going on? Why did you change the locks? I'm your son. I should have a key. Not anymore. He stepped off the porch, moving toward me. Dad, come on. This is crazy. We're family. We can work this out. Whatever Sharon's been telling you, she's just trying to get her billable hours. Paige and I only want what's best for you. You stole $15,000 from my account. I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. We have expenses, Dad. The condo we're looking at, it's an investment. For all of us. You'd have a place to stay when you come to the city. I didn't give you permission to take that money. The POA was revoked. You knew that. Sharon sent you the papers. You took the money anyway. His face hardened. You gave me that authority. You can't just take it back because you're having paranoid delusions. Paranoid delusions? Dad, you're 67. Maybe you forgot signing those documents. Maybe you're not remembering things clearly. We've been worried about you. The early signs of dementia can be subtle. I stared at my son, this man I'd raised, who just accused me of dementia to cover his own theft. I'm perfectly clear-headed, Mitchell, and I know exactly what you and Paige have been doing. We've been taking care of you. That's what we've been doing. By forging my signature on loan documents? By trying to sell my cottage without my consent? That's care? Those documents are for your protection. Setting up lines of credit in case you need emergency funds. Looking into selling the cottage because the upkeep is too much for you. You're twisting everything. I filed a police report this morning. The color drained from his face. You what? The OPP are investigating you for fraud and identity theft. They have all the documents. They're analyzing the signatures. They've contacted the bank. Dad, you can't be serious. I'm your son. You're going to have me arrested? You made that choice when you decided to steal from me. Paige's car pulled into the driveway behind Mitchell's truck. She got out, all sharp edges and barely contained fury. Vernon, what is going on? Mitchell called me. Said you're threatening him with police? I'm not threatening. I've already filed the report. She laughed. Actually laughed. Over what? A misunderstanding about finances? Do you have any idea how this makes you look? A bitter old man, paranoid about his own family? I know exactly how I look. And I know exactly what you two have done. We've done nothing but try to help you. Mitchell has spent hours managing your affairs, making sure you're taken care of. And this is how you repay him? You're an ungrateful, selfish man. Something inside me, something that had been bending and bending, finally snapped clean. Get off my property, both of you. Now, this is Mitchell's inheritance, Paige said. You can't keep him from what's rightfully his. I'm not dead yet. And when I am, you'll find you're not in my will anymore. Mitchell's face went white. You wouldn't. I met with Sharon yesterday afternoon, after I filed the police report. We revised my will. Everything goes to the Muskoka Conservancy now. This cottage, my savings, my pension survivor benefits. All of it. They'll protect this land, turn it into part of their conservation program. That's my legacy, not you. Dad, please. I gave you every opportunity to be honest with me, to treat me with respect. You chose this. Paige grabbed Mitchell's arm. Come on, we don't need him. We'll fight the will. Undue influence. His lawyer manipulated him. I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Tried to find the boy who'd run along this dock, who'd helped me stack firewood, who'd sat on this porch reading Tolkien while his mother knitted. That boy was gone. If he'd ever existed, leave. Now. Or I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. They left. Mitchell didn't look back. Paige threw one last glare over her shoulder. Their vehicles kicked up gravel as they sped down the drive. I stood there until the sound of their engines faded completely, until there was nothing but the lap of water against the dock and the cry of a loon somewhere out on the lake. Then I sat on the porch steps and, for the first time since Rebecca died, I cried. The weeks that followed were hard. The police investigation moved forward. The forensic analysis came back. The signatures on the loan documents weren't mine. Close, but not mine. Someone had practiced my handwriting, traced it, forged it well enough to fool a quick glance, but not a professional examination. Mitchell hired a lawyer, claimed I'd given him verbal permission for everything, that I was experiencing cognitive decline, that Sharon had manipulated me into changing my will. But the evidence was clear. The forged signatures. The withdrawal made after the POA was revoked. The real estate listing for a property I'd never agreed to sell. In December, charges were filed. Fraud over $5,000. Forgery. Identity theft. The Crown attorney assigned to the case, a woman named Jennifer, called me before they arrested him. Mr. Vernon, I want you to know what's going to happen. Mitchell will be arrested, likely at his home. He'll be brought in for booking, then released on conditions. One of those conditions will be no contact with you. Are you prepared for that? Was I prepared to watch my only son be arrested? To know that my statement, my evidence, was the reason? Yes, I said. I'm prepared. They arrested him on a Tuesday. I wasn't there. I was at the cottage, sitting by the wood stove, watching snow fall on the frozen lake. Dorothy called to check on me. I heard, she said. I'm sorry, Vernon. Thank you. If you need anything, you just call. I mean it. Anything. After we hung up, I thought about what she'd said. I'd been alone since Rebecca died. I'd thought Mitchell was my family, my connection. But family isn't just blood. Dorothy checking on me. Sharon fighting for me. Carol the locksmith who changed my locks without judgment. Deepak at the bank who froze my accounts. Constable Richards who believed me. That was family too. The trial was set for April. Mitchell pleaded not guilty. His lawyer argued that it was a family dispute, that I'd been complicit in the financial arrangements, that my memory was faulty. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge gave him 2 years less a day, house arrest and probation, ordered him to repay the $15,000 plus the legal fees the bank had incurred investigating the fraud. A restraining order. No contact with me for 5 years. I didn't attend the sentencing. I'd said everything I needed to say in my victim impact statement, read in court by Jennifer because I couldn't be in the same room as him. In my statement, I wrote, Mitchell is my son, and I loved him from the moment he was born. I would have given him anything he needed. All he had to do was ask. Instead, he chose to steal, to lie, to betray the trust I'd placed in him as my child. That betrayal hurt more than the financial loss. It made me question everything I thought I knew about being a father. But I've learned that love and boundaries are not mutually exclusive. I can grieve for the son I thought I had while protecting myself from the man he became. That's not cruelty. That's survival. The cottage still stands. I spend more time here now, especially in the summers. Dorothy and I have dinner once a week. Her granddaughter visits sometimes, brings her kids. They remind me what family can be when it's built on respect instead of expectation. The Muskoka Conservancy came by last month. We're working on the details of the land transfer. When I die, this place will be protected. Kids will learn to fish from my dock. Families will swim off my shore. The cottage will be maintained as a legacy property, a piece of history preserved. Mitchell sent a letter 6 months after the trial. It came through his lawyer, since he couldn't contact me directly. I almost didn't open it, almost threw it away, but something made me read it. It wasn't an apology, not really. It was an explanation. How he'd felt overlooked his whole life. How Paige had convinced him that I'd be fine, that I didn't need all that money anyway, that we were just securing their future. How it had spiraled beyond what he'd intended. I read it once. Then I put it in the wood stove and watched it burn. I don't hate him. I wish I could. Hate would be simpler. Instead, I feel a profound sadness, for who he could have been, for the relationship we could have had if he'd chosen differently, for the grandchildren I'll likely never know, because Paige won't let them near me. But I also feel something unexpected: peace. For years, since Rebecca died, I'd been drifting, trying to be enough for Mitchell, trying to live up to what I thought he needed from me. Always giving, always accommodating, always second-guessing myself. Now, in this cottage where my father taught me about integrity, where my wife taught me about love, where I thought I'd taught my son about family, I've learned the hardest lesson of all. You can love someone completely and still set boundaries. You can grieve for a relationship while protecting yourself from harm. You can be someone's parent and still say no. That's not failure. That's wisdom. Outside my window, the lake reflects the sunset, turning the water to copper and gold. A loon calls, answered by another from across the bay. The same sounds my father heard, the same sounds I'll hear for whatever time I have left. This cottage will outlast all of us. The land will remain protected, purposeful. That's legacy. Not money passed down to be spent and forgotten, not property given to those who feel entitled to it, but something preserved with intention, protected with love, shared with a community that will value it. I made coffee this morning in the same percolator my parents used, sat on the dock where I proposed to Rebecca 45 years ago, watched the mist rise off the water as the sun climbed. Mitchell took $15,000 from me. He tried to take everything, but he failed, because the things that truly matter, he couldn't touch. My dignity, my integrity, my peace of mind, the knowledge that I did the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm 67 years old. I taught high school English for 38 years. I've read every tragedy Shakespeare ever wrote. I've taught students about the fatal flaws that bring down kings and heroes. But I never understood, until now, that sometimes the greatest tragedy isn't death. It's betrayal by those you loved most. And sometimes the greatest triumph isn't revenge. It's setting a boundary and walking away. The cottage keys are on the hook by the door. New keys, clean keys. Keys that represent a choice I made to value myself as much as I valued my son. That choice saved me. And if Mitchell ever reads this, if he ever understands what he lost, I hope he knows. I didn't do this to hurt him. I did it because I finally loved myself enough to stop letting him hurt me. That's not vengeance. That's survival. That's grace. The sun is setting now. The lake is calm. Tomorrow, Dorothy and I are going fishing. Her granddaughter is bringing her kids. We'll make a day of it. Hot dogs on the fire. Stories about the old days. Maybe I'll teach the little ones how to bait a hook, the way my father taught me. Life goes on, even after betrayal, even after loss, especially after you choose yourself. I'm at peace with that. Finally, completely, at peace.